Alright, trying a different list out today. This one's just kind of inspired by lands. So we're running by 3 explorations, which lets us play an extra land every turn. 2 Arboreal Grazers, which we can get with Green Sun Zenith. It's also a nice alternate turn 1 play to, instead of like Reclaimer or Exploration, if we don't have either of those. Lets us put another land on the battlefield tapped when it comes into play. We also have Life from the Loam as a 2 of, and a Crucible of Worlds as a 1 of. And then 29th land is going to be Sigiri Steep. Other than that, it's kind of the usual deal. Got a couple chokes in the sideboard. It's going to be really fun if we can land those on some blue decks. Let's see what happens. Going to be on the draw here. This looks like a fun and solid hand. We got a turn 1 uncounterable Elvish Reclaimer. We also got a Once Upon a Time. We can find the best spell with that, or the best land. Creature spell, that is. Definitely keeping this, but this is overall a great Cloudpost hand. Could this be 8 cast? Possibly. Very interesting turn 1 there. Cracking their Mishra's Bauble, looking at the top card of our deck. And I think a Titan would be a great draw here, and that would change our turn 1 play of Cavernous Souls into Reclaimer, potentially. Let's see, so I think we are going to lead off on Once Upon a Time first. And let's get an Arboreal Grazer. This is one of those hands where Grazer is just fantastic. Exploration would also be a great draw there. But this is just letting us kind of ramp out if it resolves. I'm going to drop a Cloudpost here. Cards we want to draw soon would be Primeval Titan. Exploration would be nice. Green Sun Zenith would be good. Urza Saga from the opponent. Any follow-up spells? Maybe an Emery. Sai, Master Thopterist, the other legendary permanent that they play. Creature. He's going to create a lot of 1/1s for them as they cast their spells, but they do need to generate some card advantage. They only have 1 card in hand, so there aren't a ton of ways for them to get more, but they are drawing more cards with these two. So if they draw into some more cheap spells, they can really get going with these 1/1 flyers produced by Sai. So I think what we're going to do here is we can Tabernacle will be a great card to fetch after we resolve an Elvish Reclaimer. Since they have 0 cards in hand, we don't have to worry about any sort of counter spells, so we can keep Cavern of Souls for later. Oh, but they are drawing 2 cards at the beginning of our upkeep. I think I would be willing to play Reclaimer into Force of Will. On the other hand, if we resolve a Reclaimer, then that's going to get us where we need to be in the long run. So I think maybe Cavern is the right play here, because we really want this Elvish Reclaimer to resolve. So we are going to drop Cavern of Souls, naming Elf, and cast Elvish Reclaimer. Uncounterable. And that card did its job, so we could probably cast a Crop Rotation at the end of their turn, possibly. Cards we don't want to see from the opponent. Oh, there's not too many things at this point that I can think of game 1. It's never great when they have Emery Lurker of the Lock, because that's just like a really solid engine for them to continue to draw cards and fill up their hand. But Caracas is super useful against that and kind of shuts it out. They don't have any wastelands in this deck or anything to interact with our lands, really, at least game 1. So this is generally ends up being like a glacial chasm matchup where we can kind of hide behind a glacial chasm until we can go for the win. Block like that. So as I was saying, this is a glacial chasm matchup. So the idea is we can hide behind glacial chasm and then keep making land drops, get more Cloudposts, get Ugin, and cast a big Eldrazi. Now, do we risk the crop rotation here? We don't really want that to get countered if we're going to go for the Glacial Chasm plan. On the other hand, it could ramp us up a lot, but we don't have any payoff spells right now, so I think we don't fire off crop rotation and risk it getting countered, and instead we'll just kind of slow roll. And we're going to get another Cloudpost here. So I could sacrifice a land and go for the Glacial Chasm here. That way I could return more lands to my hand with Life from the Loam. Or the other option would be to cast Life from the Loam now and then wait until their combat step to get Glacial Chasm. So we don't have a Yavimaya, so we need both of these lands to cast Life from the Loam. Now they're going to have a lot of power on board. So here's where we go for the Glacial Chasm lock. This is generally the strategy against 8 cast. This is how we beat 8 cast. And one important thing is to make sure we activate Elvish Reclaimer before they search their library, because otherwise they can go for their Pithing Needle and name Elvish Reclaimer, then we are out of luck and will not be able to fetch our Glacial Chasm with Elvish Reclaimer. And we'd have to rely on a crop rotation, which is not a sure shot, whereas this is. So now we are okay, and we can't really do anything for the rest of this turn, so we're going to F6, pass, and we're still at 18 life, so we have time. We have a Glimmer Post, we have green mana, so we are in a quite a comfortable position here. Unless they're on a unconventional build, then we probably have this game. There are some Japanese 8-cast players that splash green for Basiju and Life from the Loam in the sideboard. I think personally that's very techy. It's very, very smart to have a way to interact with lands and artifacts and enchantments. Well, main deck is pretty powerful, gives the deck an edge, and they don't have to really add a whole lot to the deck to be able to afford the splash, since they already have 4 Mox Opals and 4 Lotus Petals. If I were building 8 cast, I would definitely splash green for both Seiju and Life from the Loam. Alright, yes, we will pay 2 life. And I think we can just take Life from the Loam back here. Maybe not yet. We want to draw into some more business. So here we could drop Glimmer Post, gain some more life. At the end of their turn, we will sacrifice the Glimmer Post for another Cloudpost. And you see how this is working here. Basically, we're just hiding behind Glacial Chasm and fetching Cloudposts until we have enough mana to fetch Eye of Ugin. Then search for Ulamog or Emrakul the Aeon's Torn and Karakas, then take infinite turns. So their best play here would be to get Pithing Needle and name Elvish Reclaimer, because that would force us to start relying on top deck mode. Other than Pithing Needle, there's not much I'm worried about them doing. The other thing they could do is bounce our Elvish Reclaimer and then counter it. That wouldn't be great for us. But even then, I think we have almost what we need to win the game here. We would just need to draw into a win condition. Another Cloudpost. Yes, we will pay the 2 life again. And I think we will actually dredge for Life from the Loam and play it just to bait out any counters they might have. Ooh, that's that's kind of the card we did not want to get milled into the graveyard. Shuffles our whole deck, which is fine. We'll still get value off the Life from the Loam in the long game here. And so I think interesting. Emrakul Glimmerpost there. Alright, so we're going to gain some life, and here at the end of our opponent's turn, well, probably before the end of our opponent's turn, we are going to get Thespian Stage. That way we can do a fun trick here with Elvish Reclaimer that I'll show you. Alright, so again, here we have to respond to their search. So they can make the token, that's fine. But we still have to respond to their search and activate Elvish Reclaimer before they search their library. And now we're going to get a Thespian Stage so we can copy our Glacial Chasm in our upkeep, which will reset it. So we'll end up not paying for that. And we can in turn sacrifice our Glacial Chasm and get another Cloudpost or a Glimmerpost off of it. So essentially we'll have another Cloudpost and a Glacial Chasm with 0 counters on it. And if they name Thespian Stage, that's okay too. So our opponent did get Pithing Needle with Urza Saga. They're most likely going to name Elvish Reclaimer or Thespian Stage. Let's see. Elvish Reclaimer, yep. So that was actually decent timing for us because at least we can reset the clock here with our Thespian Stage. Unfortunately, we will still have to sacrifice our Glacial Chasm now because we don't have any green mana to activate or to cast Crop Rotation. Alright, so Glacial Chasm's ability goes on the stack. While it's on the stack, we're going to activate the Thespian Stage, targeting Glacial Chasm. So Thespian Stage becomes a Glacial Chasm with 0 counters on it, and then we can, well, we might even want to keep this one around and just pay the life. 6 life to keep a land around seems kind of worth it because we can sacrifice it to Crop Rotation. But since we have Life from the Loam, maybe we're not going to do that. It's a great draw. Cast our Once Upon a Time here. Nothing that we really wanted here, but I think we will take the Glimmerpost and then we'll just pass it. Here there's nothing we can do this turn. We could exile their graveyard to prevent them from casting more spells from their graveyard, but I don't think we're worried about them drawing more cards at this point. This has been a pretty grindy game 1, so we do got to be mindful of the clock here as well. But our opponent is behind us in time, so that's good. Now, good draws here. We would love to draw Besiege. We would love to draw Eye of Ugin. Once Upon a Time is another great draw. And I'm going to cast Once Upon a Time first before making any land drops. Besiege, that's great. So it's going to take us a turn cycle, but we will be able to destroy their Pithing Needle, which will then turn our Elvish Reclaimer back on and let us search for the remaining lands we need to win the game, which would be another Cloudpost perhaps a Caracas as well as Ayabugan. Tabernacle would be another great card here if we needed to keep them at bay. Actually, that's not true. They would still have tons of power. So our opponent needs another pithing needle, and they need to name Basiju who endures. That's the only way I could see them having any sort of chance at winning this game. We also have to be mindful here of their graveyard because after we destroy Pithing Needle with Basiju, they'll have the ability to play it again. So we're going to want to cast Endurance and shuffle their graveyard to the bottom of their library. So they're casting a Chalice on 1. I'm going to let that slide since there's nothing I can really do about it. That's a good play. It shuts off our crop rotation, which maybe I should have used earlier. I've been holding on to it for quite a while. Yavimaya would be great here so we can start using some of our green mana, or producing some more green mana, I should say. Good thing about that Emrakul shuffling our graveyard is now we have access to Cavern of Souls again, which could be an option so that we can guarantee that they don't counter it after we destroy Pithing Needle. Exploration, that's kind of a dead draw at this point, mainly because they have Chalice right now. So we still have a land to play, and we have a Life from the Loam in hand. Exploration is a great card to pitch to Endurance. Lots of options here. Once we take out Pithing Needle, we can also bait any counters they have with crop rotation. So the question is, do we cast Basiju now, or do we? I think we do. Then we can sacrifice our forest and get Yavimaya Cradle of Growth or Thespian Stage. I think Thespian Stage will help us reset our Glacial Chasm. On the other hand, Yavimaya will help us cast. I think right now we kind of need to get Yavimaya. So sequencing here is really important. I think we're going to lead off with Life from the Loam because we want our endurance to resolve even more than Life from the Loam at this point. Alright, so that resolves. Then we're going to pitch Endurance and hope that resolves. And now we are looking pretty good here. They will be able to search up Pithing Needle again, but we have Basiju in hand as well, which is another target they could name. I think what we might end up doing is blowing up their saga with Basiju so that they don't fetch another needle and name Reclaimer again. We're going to have to pay 6 life next turn, which is okay because we can gain the life back if we want to with more Glimmer Posts. So yeah, like I said, we are going to pay the life for this. Something we could have done last turn is not tap our Glacial Chasm, and then at the end of the turn, copy one of our other lands, and then just play Glacial Chasm. We're not going to dredge here. Emrakul the Eon's Torn, that is a great draw. That means we don't even need Eye of Ugin at this point. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I think what we're going to do here is play Forest, activate, let's see. Let's make sure we do this right. So if we make another Cloudpost, then we're going to have 5, 10, 15. And then that leaves us with 1 land, 16. I'm trying to do the math here so that we can cast Emrakul and get Caracas here. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's start off, get a Glimmer Post or a Thespian Stage. Thespian Stage will let us reset. Let's get a Glimmer Post. Then we got 5, 10, 15. So now in our next turn we can sacrifice the Glacial Chasm, search for another land. Alright, that's fine. And we're gonna actually destroy their Pithing Needle here as well. I'm sorry, their Chalice on 1. During our upkeep, we're gonna cast Crop Rotation, sacrifice the Glacial Chasm, and hopefully we'll get a Caracas. If that resolves, then it's game over, as we'll be able to take infinite turns and make them sacrifice everything. Alright, so that trigger goes on the stack. We're gonna get rid of it. Alright, and so it did resolve. We're gonna get Caracas. And from here, we take all of the turns. Alright, there it is. Sideboard against 8 casts, we're always going to bring in 4 Force of Vigors. Can bring in Surgical Extraction. Let's take out, on the draw, let's take out 2 of the Arboreal Grazers, 1 Exploration. I usually take out Map against fast decks like that, but it is very useful on the other hand, so maybe we should leave that in. Endurance is nice, but not super necessary. Let's cut 1 Endurance for a Veil of Summer, and let's try it. Yeah, so this list is kind of fun. It's not what I would be playing for anything serious, but I'm just experimenting with some different builds and some different cards right now. Alright, so we are short on time here. We gotta be very mindful. This is a great hand if they do not have Chalice of the Void. Even with Chalice of the Void, this is a playable hand since we have the 1 ring. Cards we don't want to see, Patchwork Automaton. They would have played that first. Let's see what their turn 1 play. Chalice on 1. Okay, so that's rough. But it doesn't look like they have any fast clock threats coming out here now. An Emery is not the best, but we can deal with an Emery. So they're gonna have a pretty fast clock here coming up. We need to get this ring out, find a way to get rid of their Chalice, start dropping lands and drawing cards. So since this is one of the main reasons I have Exploration in here, since we're drawing so many extra cards from the 1 ring. So next turn I believe we're going to untap and we'll play Forest, Greenstone Zenith for Elvish Reclaimer, or Arboreal Grazer. Probably Elvish Reclaimer. X equals 1. Do they have the Force? They do not. We're going to take some damage this turn, but we're going to play the 1 ring. Hopefully it will resolve. We'll go from there. A second Chalice on 1. I was confused there for a second. Alright, so here we're going to go Glimmerpost, gain some life, and then cast the One Ring. And might as well get in for a damage. Could potentially turn off Ancient Tomb later on. Gonna draw a card here. And I think we're gonna play, well, let's draw a few more cards first. Play Glimmerpost. And get rid of their saga now. Then we can go into the Glacial Chasm lock again. Which we gotta be really careful about because that's a lot of life loss. And just to save on time here, I think I might get Glacial Chasm ahead of time. Nah. I think that might actually be wise. Get rid of the forest. Get our Glacial Chasm. Hopefully they didn't sideboard Wasteland, because this is definitely a suboptimal play here. Dismember, okay. Need to really think about the clock here, so normally wouldn't do that until combat, possibly. Yes, I'm going to pay. Do we even want to draw more cards? I think we do. We just need to find that Force of Vigor. Alright, so we're going to play that, and we are going to have to discard here. We're going to pay a lot of life here. 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, then we're going to drop Maya, or maybe a Glimmerpost here. Let's see, I think we don't have a ton of use for green mana, but Glimmerpost can actually help us stay in the game here. As nice as it would be to be able to play some of these cards. And we'll get rid of another, well, I guess an Exploration here. No, we're not going to pay. Expedition map. We need to draw into Force of Vigor here. No dice. Another One Ring would be great. Oh, we do have the Force of Vigor. Alright, that's great. only one Force of Vigor. Alright, so we'll discard Life from the Loam, Exploration, a... Gotta play fast here. Elvish Reclaimer and a Expedition Map. Gotta discard one more, I guess. Ulamog. Alright, that's great. That's great news. I'm gonna take a lot of life here. And I think we're gonna draw some more cards. And let's play another One Ring. If they don't have the counter for this, then I think we win. If they do, force of negation. Okay, that's fine. I think we're just gonna pass the turn here. And we might lose to time here. Yep. Alright, that's the importance of playing fast, folks. So we had the game here. An Emrakul. Actually, no. I would have lost. What I needed to do there was actually play the One Ring. Once time is crunching like that, it can be hard to think straight. But yeah, that was a good match.